engineered stone and now zero silica surface is just what we know, it's what we have. It's our comfort zone. And a lot of the time that's kind of, we just take for granted that that's what our benchtops are. But having those extra products that do those extra little things that give you better stain resistance or better scratch resistance or better warranties, those are the conversations to be had, because no stone is equal. So there's lots of different options out there to suit everybody's budget, everybody's lifestyle, and everyone's aesthetic.
Welcome to Behind the Design, a podcast where we unfold the details behind the designs we know and love and explore how each project comes to life. I am Camilla Ingall, owner of Unfolded, an interior design and styling studio. In this podcast series, we dive into the details with our industry experts, covering topics such as the creative process, latest design trends, and how we, as an industry, work together to meet the brief and overcome challenges. Let the conversation begin. Welcome back to Behind the Design, the podcast where we explore the people and processes behind the spaces we love and the industries that help bring them to life. I'm your host, Camilla Ingall, interior designer and founder of Unfolded, and today I'm joined by Erin Payne from Cosentino. Cosentino is one of the world's leading surface manufacturers, known for products like Decton and Silestone, and for continually pushing the boundaries of innovation in the materials we use in architecture and interiors. Erin brings a really unique perspective to this conversation. After spending over 20 years in interior design, she transitioned into the product and supplier side of the industry, giving her insight into both the creative and commercial worlds that shape how materials end up in our projects. As designers, we spend a lot of time specifying materials, but we don't always see the full story behind how those products have evolved, the research, the sustainability considerations, the health and safety advancements. One of the reasons I was excited to speak to Erin today is because Cosentino is currently leading a huge industry shift, including the launch of new zero silica surfaces designed to improve safety for fabricators and the broader industry. That kind of innovation shows how design isn't just about aesthetics anymore. It's also about responsibility, longevity, and thinking about the people behind the process. So Erin, welcome to Behind the Design.
Thank you for having me.
You've actually spent more than 20 years in the industry before transitioning to the supplier side of things. Tell me a little bit about that journey.
So you're right. 20 plus years being an interior designer in the industry. And I kind of got to the point where I felt that it was time to do something a little bit different. And I spent a little bit of time assessing what it is that I loved about what I did. So in moving into something different, what would that look like and what would I continue to be passionate about? And I think I kind of had the thought that the most enjoyable part that I liked about interior design and meeting with people and clients was really educating on materials. So I loved being able to talk about the technical side of things, the features, the benefits, and a lot of what I did was really product driven. So I thought, okay, that kind of makes sense that my next move is going to be still very product related. And I loved the idea of working for Cosentino. So when I kind of made that decision to go out there and find something different, the Cosentino job just popped up on my LinkedIn. And I thought, this is perfect. They're a really sustainable company, which I was really, really drawn to. But also the product is just beautiful. So I knew that I would be able to transition into selling something that I really believed in. So it kind of made it a really easy transition.
How do you think having a design background changes how you approach that role? So, the sales and the product education today.
I think it affects actually everything that I do about this role. Sales in general, product sales, is really all about relationships. Yes, you understand the product and you have to understand the technical aspects and how it performs, but also it's really just about relationships and how the people that you're selling your product to then understand the product, can unsell it to other people. So I'm able to understand then what interior designers need to know because I come from that background. I can understand what a builder needs to know about the product. And I have that real lived experience of how to apply it and, how to use it. That means I can kind of get that little bit of insider knowledge, and understanding about how they can then use their product on their projects.
You're now managing a large regional area spanning across most of New South Wales. How different are those markets? So the regional versus the Sydney market.
Yeah, so I've actually only become a regional person myself in the last few years. So my husband and I moved from Sydney to Newcastle 3 years ago, and it's quite different. The difference I think between Sydney is that there's a lot of people close together. The industry moves quite quickly. It's a lot of trend focus in a lot of instances, whereas I find the more regional you go, it's really more relationship driven. And it's about selections, I think, that are a little bit more, have a bit more longevity
Timelessness.
in them. Timelessness, exactly. So the saturation is more in Sydney. There's less of it up in regional areas like Newcastle. And I think to the distance makes it a little bit different too. So not everything's right on your doorstep. It's a little bit harder takes longer to get product and things like that. So I find, generally relationship-wise, it's a little bit different. It's more about nurturing those relationships. And then, looking at a slightly different way of selecting things. Having said that, though, I actually have become really close with a great group of interior designers that are based in Newcastle that are actually really pushing some boundaries and, doing some really vibrant and interesting things. So I think to a regional area, even though it's a little bit more distant and a little bit less trend driven, we do have little pockets of people that are just really getting out there
and experimenting.
exactly. Yeah.
And I think, exactly what you're saying around the timelessness, it's sort of working on projects that age well.
Yes.
They have that, as you say, longevity, but it's not this quick fix. Whereas in Sydney, sometimes it can be a little bit quick fix because it's a quick commercial space. Let's get it up now. It may only be there for 18 months or 2 years, and then it's going to be another space again.
Exactly.
So it's a very different sort of approach, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So now if we dive into Cosentino as a brand, you do work with them. And for those who don't know much about Cosentino, give us a little bit of insight on the full story behind where the company started and also how it became such a global brand.
So Cosentino started as just a tiny, tiny little marble company in the south of Spain in 1945. It is still to this day owned by the Cosentino family, as it was in 1945. It's really quite interesting to see the transition. So there are some visuals, that I use sometimes in presentations where we've literally came from this tiny, tiny little shack in Almeria, and now we are on this enormous, enormous facility. Is basically the whole town taken up. It's on 4 million square meters of land. And I think the transition has been quite organic, even though it's enormous, because the family just really prides themselves on innovation. And that's what drives it to be where it is now. So, innovation, but also keeping that real people family feel.
Personable.
Yeah, has made it grow to a really, really big business, but still being able to keep its roots, essentially.
Yeah. And it's sort of brand alignment. I think as a supplier in the industry, there's a lot of stone suppliers. There's a lot of marble out there. What is that point of difference for different suppliers? And having that historical story and sort of something different to tell, I think gives a brand a lot more uniqueness in the industry as
Absolutely.
well.
Our brand story is really significant. And I talk a lot about our brand story. So even just with I was doing a meeting yesterday and
With designers and
and it was
architects.
actually with quite a big builder, but they also have a really good brand story, still privately owned, still a family business. And we like to align ourselves with those sorts of partners as well. And it feels important that together, we can collaborate and have our brand story out there, because a product is a product. And everybody, and especially when we're talking about stone, there are a lot of stone products out there now. It's a big business. It's a lot of saturation in the market. But what sets us apart is our brand story, and not only the fact that we're family owned, but we're really innovative, and we do a lot of R&D to make sure we're always bringing them the most relevant and groundbreaking products.
And so just for the listeners, R&D.
Research and development.
Yeah, so Cosentino, grown from a family business in Spain, they are now an international leader in stone. What do you think has allowed the company to scale while still maintaining strong relationships with designers and builders, especially globally? Because in Spain, it would make sense for there to be an appreciation of a local supplier. How do you think that's grown into, countries like Australia?
I think it comes back to what I was saying before, is that they invest as equally in people as they do in research and innovation. And I think that's the most important part. So we do put a lot of time and money and energy into researching, as I mentioned, the best way to move forward, the most sustainable and safe products, but also the investment in people is huge. And what
And
that
staff too, team.
yeah,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
not just customers and clients.
No,
Yeah.
both ways. So, I can speak very personally about the fact that it feels like I work in a family run business, but in the best way. Cosentino has nearly 6,000 employees. So we really are a huge company, but we're very, very relationship driven. So it works on both sides. I think you can't have an amazing, innovative company and product without staying grounded and people based to get the best out of everybody. And yeah.
One of the things that stood out to me is the strong leadership within the company, including Regional Director Maria. How does that leadership culture influence the business, do you think?
Our leadership, having a lot of women in our senior management, is actually so important. It lends itself to a really supportive and collaborative approach, but also a really strong leader and leadership. So I've been in the construction industry for a really long time. I came from volume building for a long period of time. So as a woman in a very male-dominated industry, as you know, you're also a woman in this industry. It can be a little bit rough sometimes, and the times are certainly changing. And I've been doing it for a really long time, but it really is just so wonderful to work for a company that has incredibly strong female leadership. And especially myself, as someone that's kind of working towards more in Cosentino, it's very inspiring, and I've got a really good role model, especially in Maria. Yeah, she inspires me every day.
It is really nice because all the conversations that I've had with Cosentino and any collaborations that we've done, I would say most of the time there's at least 2 to 3 women on the call. And I love that. Absolutely love that. I feel like, it's not to say that it would be any different with the guys, but it's more that there's a lot of open talking, there's a lot of collaborative, there's a lot of bouncing, that really female energy. And I think in a creative environment, it is really important to have that dynamic, not only in leadership, but just in collaboration and amongst your colleagues. When we dive into, especially a lot of the listeners are quite interested in terms of, stone and the history of stone, but also the innovation and the sustainability side of where we're headed. So Cosentino is about to launch a new zero silica surface globally. This feels like a major shift for the industry. And so I would like you to explain for both me and our listeners what that means in simple terms.
So a close is our next generation zero silica surface. So it's got a special inlayer technology which makes the design of the actual kind of veining and the design of the stone a lot more natural looking. So it emulates what we see in natural stone.
Which is what everyone's after.
Which is what everybody's after. Exactly. That's 100% where the trend is at right now. But also the future, because you can't go wrong with the things that come out of nature. They're not trends. They're the things that just are. Exactly. Also, what we've been able to do is make it more heat resistant. So it's actually heat resistant up to 220 degrees, which is a game changer. Again, I keep using that word, but it really is. So you can actually put your hot pots directly from the stove onto this surface, which you can't do with just a normal general zero silica surface.
So for years, we've heard conversations around silica, safety in fabrication. It's been a topic, over the last couple of years. How important is the new development of stone and engineered surface? And what is the future of that at Cosentino?
So important. Cosentino developed our Silestone Q-Zeron product, which is our zero silica surface, and that's just for the Australian market. However, even though silica is only banned in Australia, this is something that's really being considered globally, and that's why a close is so important, because it's also a zero silica mineral surface, but Cosentino are launching it globally. So this isn't just something that has been designed for the Australian market, to fit in with our regulations. This is actually something that Cosentino are taking extremely seriously. because silicosis is a big issue, and it's something that doesn't just affect the stonemasons in Australia, it's something that affects the stonemasons everywhere. So even though the government regulations might not say that you can't use crystalline silica, Cosentino think that the safety of everyone around us is so important that they've actually taken this step to create a global zero silica product.
Yeah, it's a big commitment.
Big commitment. That's so important.
Yeah. And so tell me a bit more about, how Cosentino approaches, I guess like a lot of stone brands can be quite driven by, as you say, research, feedback from designers, market demand. But at the same time, it sounds like Cosentino is quite driven by futuristic planning as well, rather than that trend-based planning.
Yes. Innovation, and I know I've said that word a lot, but innovation is a huge thing for Cosentino. But we don't only do it based on what the trends are or what we think as an internal company will sell. Everything that we do is innovation based on feedback. So feedback of our fabricators, feedback of the design community, feedback of the end user as well. So we constantly have our ears open. We're constantly looking at what people want, what works and doesn't want, what's going to be safer for our community, hence the zero silica. So innovation is always driven with people in mind, as well as, just getting the best product out there.
This episode of Behind the Design is brought to you by my interior design studio, Unfolded. At Unfolded, we design thoughtful, functional spaces and collaborate closely with the builders, suppliers, and makers who help us bring those spaces to life. You can explore our work at unfolded.com.au. And so, if we dive into sustainability, another huge conversation in design right now, how is Cosentino addressing that responsibility beyond just the aesthetic and the product itself?
Yeah, so Cosentino takes sustainability incredibly seriously. So in all of our practices in our factory and how we make things, we use 100% certified renewable electrical energy. 99% of our water is recycled. You'll actually notice if you ever kind of have a look at our facilities in Spain, we've got a full solar farm and also a wastewater plant. So we don't put any wastewater into any kind of
music to my ears.
Yes, it's amazing. So any product that we make is sustainable in those ways. But then also Decton is carbon neutral. So it's the only certified carbon neutral product in its category.
And Decton's another range that you offer?
Decton is another range, which we can talk about a little bit. But so we our porcelainic product is Decton, and we offset the carbon emissions. So not only do we practice really sustainable like manufacturing techniques, however, we also offset the carbon emissions through the life cycle of the product to make it a certified carbon neutral product.
Yeah, that's pretty big. And it's definitely something to be proud of. This day and age, that's what people are after. That's what they're talking about. Clients, builders, developers even, because it's a talking point for customers and clients, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we need to look after the planet. It's so important and that was, like I said, that was a really big driving factor for me to work for Cosentino, because I know that the sustainability is next level.
Very important to them.
Yeah.
And so obviously as a designer, and you are one of my suppliers, when we dive into the selections process, specifying the product, it can be quite overwhelming, and not just for me as a client of yours, but also for my clients. And obviously I, as a designer, it's my responsibility to learn about the product, have those conversations with you. But in this ever-evolving industry, there's always more to learn, always something new. How do you simplify that process for both someone like myself as a designer, A&D, and for customers?
So I think training, presentations, education, and just constant talking about the product is how I do that. So one of the main things that I like to talk about to try and kind of conquer a common misconception about surfaces especially is that all surfaces behave the same. So I always try to go into a lot of depth about how they are all different to each other. So just to kind of run you through our product catalogue a little bit, just to show you the differences of what we've got. We've got our Silestone Key Zeron range, which is a zero silica surface. And it is, again, kind of what we've probably all got in our houses at the moment, just a very typical engineered type stone. It is very it is very scratch resistant and stain resistant, but it does take a little bit more care. You have to look after it a little bit more. Then we go into a close, which is our brand new product that's launching today. And it has all of those benefits, but amped up a little bit. So as I mentioned, you can put your hot pots on it. So it's heat resistant. It's also much more scratch resistant and stain resistant. Plus, with that close product, we are actually using a special type of patented resin that we've got that doesn't, it's heat proof, so it doesn't scorch. So not only, that's why you can put your hot pots on it, thermal shock resistant, but it also makes it a little bit easier for the fabricators. So when they're polishing the edge, they don't have to worry about scorching the edges. Then, of course, we've got Decton, which we talked about, which has no resin in it. So it's actually like a ultra compact surface that's sinterized. And what that does is it allows kind of an emulation of what happens in nature to happen, and it fuses a whole bunch of minerals together. So it's made up of 20 inorganic kind of raw materials that go through the sinterizing process. It fuses them together and allows us to have a product with no resin in it. That allows it to be scratch proof and stain proof. It has zero porosity. So you can use it in swimming pools. You can use it on facades because it's graffiti proof.
And just for a moment, porosity is porous.
Yes.
And that's what, for the listeners, that is, for example, with a marble that is not sealed, when you drop your red wine or your lemon juice or anything acidity or your coffee, it will leave a mark.
That's exactly right.
Decton
So Decton will not do any of that. So nothing soaks in, which I'm glad you said that, actually, because then that leads us into our sensor, which is our natural stone range. It's our range of granites and quartzites. And we have a special stain resistance or stain warranty on sensor.
Warranty is so important.
So important. So what we actually do differently with that is when we bring the blocks out of the ground, from Brazil, wherever they come from, we cut them into slabs, and then we actually provide a special stain treatment there. And it will actually sit on the surface of the stone for 24 to 48 hours. And it actually penetrates the top layer of the stone.
So it absorbs it.
It absorbs it, and it kind of changes the composition of the top of the stone. So it doesn't need sealing, and it doesn't ever need resealing. And it comes with that 15-year warranty, which is amazing because natural stone, as we mentioned, is so popular.
Yeah,
right
everyone
now.
wants the natural look.
Yep.
They want the natural veining. It's pretty common.
It really
and
is.
It's a statement.
Yes.
When you want a minimal home, but you want the kitchen to pop or the bathrooms to pop. Yeah.
So sensor is a great range when somebody wants the beauty of natural stone, but to have just a little bit less maintenance. So you might have kids if you want to really cook and use your benchtop for,
or you're an
baking bread,
entertainer.
or you're going to use red pasta sauce and things like that. You can
on the
actually
regular.
really comfortably have a beautiful natural stone and not have to worry about the staining.
The maintenance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's one really common question we get from a lot of our clients and during our projects, especially with builders and whatnot. What is the maintenance? How can I use this product? And it's one thing to get the look right, but it's having these conversations, isn't it? It's so important. And it's not just me having them with you. It's even just sitting down with the client and there's three of us saying, okay, cool, we want this look. How can we achieve it with this low maintenance or with this functional, practical stone?
Yeah, exactly. And so many people that I speak to just don't even know that
you
that's
don't
a
know what you
possibility.
don't know.
That's exactly
and
right.
That's,
So the education piece is really important. But then, yes, it does allow you as a designer to be able to then educate your client, and put them at ease and allow them to have what they're after without the stress and the worry about maintenance.
Absolutely. And as you say, having that warranty, I think, is really important for people because they're new to these products. Our clients are new to this idea of, I don't have to wipe this clean all the time and whatnot, but you can tell they're still a bit like, just remind me with this stone, what am I doing with it? And it's like, okay, let me talk you through it. But in our scheduling, we use Programmer in our scheduling, and we always put all the warranties in there. So then they've always got that platform to go back to and just be like, okay, hang on a second, Camilla said this, or at Unfolded.
Now, I know
So-
that was written somewhere. Where was it
it
written?
was written somewhere,
Yeah.
or the warranty document's attached. So Find that really helpful.
And we have great warranties. So as I mentioned, 15 years on sensor, but our Decton product has a 25-year
Oh, wow. Yeah.
warranty. So, you can really rest easy when you have one of those products.
And so are there any misconceptions designers or clients often have about surfaces that you find yourself explaining quite frequently?
I think that the biggest misconception kind of comes from where we were just talking about, is that all surfaces perform the same. And obviously with different surfaces, like just the difference between Silestone Q Xeron and a close and Decton and sensor, there are price variations in those because they are manufactured differently. They're made of different material. It's a completely different product. But there is really that common misconception or those questions about, but why would I do this instead of this? And that comes a lot too with the builder, world. For
They
a
need
lot
to
of
be
builders,
educated.
they have like a standard stone
Yeah. Oh,
included.
they have a standard supplier and stonemason.
Yeah.
Always.
And then, of course, as you go outside of that, different products cost extra. And a lot of the questions are, but why?
Yeah, why would I?
Why?
And some aren't open to change. Some people are really, I know this product, it's worked before, it's safe. It's like a safe option instead of being more explorative and experimental. Yeah.
And also, as one of those things that we're used to, especially in this country, as I said, engineered stone and now zero silica mineral surface is just what we know. It's what we have. It's our comfort zone. And a lot of the time that's kind of, we just take for granted that that's what our benchtops are. But having those extra products that do those extra little things that give you better stain resistance or better scratch resistance or better warranties, those are the conversations to be had because, no stone is equal. So there's lots of different options out there to suit everybody's budget, everybody's lifestyle, and everyone's aesthetic.
And people are able to come and see this in your showroom, aren't they, in Sydney?
Yes. Well, actually, it's very exciting. So we are just about to reopen our Sydney City showroom.
I did hear that.
Yes, and it's
A few conversations.
yes. So it's currently just right at the end of undergoing a really
Almost
really
ready.
big renovation. I can't wait to see it. So yes, absolutely. The Cosentino City showroom is a really, really good place to see all of our products and in lots of different applications as well. Decton specifically isn't just a benchtop product. It can be floor tiling. It can be wall cladding. It can be facades. We make wash basins. We make shower bases out of Decton. Anything that you can think of, you can do with Decton.
Just ask the question.
And sometimes it's really hard to visualize that. So the city showroom is amazing because it does show you it in every application available. Plus, we've got a cool little facade wall as well to show you some of our, like facade applications and things. So it's an amazing place to be able to go and see everything all at once. We also do have our hub, so our warehouse at Wetherill Park, where if a client wants to see or a designer wants to see anything on a much larger scale, so a full slab of something, they can also make an appointment at Wetherill Park and go down and see the full-sized slabs of things.
Which is so important because it's such a funny process with clients. They'll say, oh, can I see the stone? I'm thinking, actually, yeah, I've got a sample of that. Pop to my car. It's this big.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, just imagine that on your 4-meter bench top. It doesn't work.
And especially with natural stone as well, because
the
sample
vein is this big.
Yeah.
And then you see the natural stone and it's like,
and every slab is different. It's natural. It comes out of the ground. So the little sample that we have that's this big that might be a couple of years old, the new slabs that are coming out of the ground don't look like that anymore. So natural stone especially is so important to actually go and do a physical slab selection.
And you can secure your slab then and there as well.
So you go down, you pick your slab and it's reserved for you. So you can pick exactly the slab that's going to be on your bench top.
Absolutely. And for designers, it's important as well that our clients feel confident in that slab. You don't want any room for error when they rock up on the day and the joiner's finished and it's not what they thought. Nobody needs that. And at the same time, we're also styling the full home. We're doing the full furniture fit out. So if you know that the stone on the kitchen island bench or the bathrooms is really significant and it's quite loud and it speaks volumes, you may not do a really heavy striped sofa right next to it, So it's good for everybody to have that peace of mind of what that stone's going to be and how it's going to achieve that design.
Absolutely. And even just small changes in tonality. So, for example, as we know, Taj Mahal
Oh,
is
classic.
a very popular stone right
Yep.
now. We can't keep it on the shelves. As soon as we get some in, it flies out. But we have two blocks at the moment of Taj Mahal, and one is quite beige and brown, and one is actually quite a green undertone.
Interesting.
So, and that's just, again,
okay.
because it's natural and it comes out of the ground, they can have different tonalities. So
Variation.
it's only a small variation, but when you're trying to match paint colors and joinery and all of those things with it,
Cabinetry.
yeah, that tonality can actually be quite significant in how. So yeah, having a look at your slab and picking the actual slab,
Yeah.
is
Love that.
yeah, very important.
Absolutely. And so what trends are you noticing right now in the types of surfaces designers are specifying?
Definitely anything natural. So I think we're definitely moving away from those more unnatural looking veins. So gone are the kind of like really white slabs with your really grey veins and things like that. We're definitely seeing that's moving away, and we're really seeing anything that emulates what happens in nature. So that can either be an actual natural stone, like a Taj Mahal or a Vancouver, or an Atara. But what it also is we're seeing it reflected in the engineered stones as well, the stones that are made. So even our close range has been made to emulate quartzites and what you actually see in nature. So then you can have that natural look and feel, but then you get that little bit of extra benefit.
The durability. So it's the engineered stone is more of a manufactured stone, just for listeners. Yeah.
Yes. So natural stone is natural. It comes out of the ground, but Silestone, Cuzeron, Eclose and Decton, they're actually made stones, but we make them in a way so they look as natural as possible. So they can really give that look and feel of a natural product, with the benefits of being a man-made.
Very innovative.
Yes.
And so next steps for Cosentino, the upcoming machine hall event this evening and showroom activation feels like quite a big moment for Cosentino. What does this milestone represent for the company itself?
Yeah, it's a huge moment for us. So the launch that we're doing tonight is for our close range, and it is the future of zero silica mineral surfaces. So we have spent a lot of time researching this and bringing it to fruition. And the way that it's made and the features and benefits that we're bringing to it, the sustainability, the ability to use resin but make it heat resistant, that is the future of mineral surfaces for us. So we are so excited to be able to actually bring that in. We as you said, we're doing a really big launch. We're excited about it.
Share it with the
because
community.
Exactly. This really is how the industry is going to move forward with zero silica surface. And we're right at the forefront of it.
Love that. And so what excites you most about the future of materials and architecture and interior design?
I think looking forward and how we are making all of our materials safer for everybody, I think that really excites me. I also think that looking at all of the different applications is really exciting as well. So we are not just a stone benchtop company now. We are a stone company. So the fact that we can diversify and use our materials in lots of different applications is what I find really exciting. And like I mentioned before with Decton, it can be floor tiles, it can be wall cutting, it can be wash basins. So looking at how we use these surfaces that we've used for a really long time, and that we know perform really well on benchtops.
It's creative.
Yeah, looking at how we can use them differently, how we can apply them in different ways. Yeah, it as the interior designer in me as well, just gets so excited about that because
You'd have a full appreciation for different applications of all of the stone as well. Yeah.
And it's so exciting when there's something new. And even if it's an old product, doing it in a new way is what
like
makes it so
reinventing it.
exciting. Yeah, because when you do, especially I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for 20-something years. So you kind of do the same things over and over and over again.
You
So
know what works.
Exactly. You've got the formula down, but then being able to just tweak that a little bit, just do something a little bit different. And then, the beauty of having a new product as well, like a close, where, it's something that's familiar, but just amped up. Yeah. So something that you've used in that application before, but now you get the extra added benefits of it. You get some extra colors. It's more more realistic looking,
Yeah, unique palette.
Yeah,
or
the inlay
palette and-
technology, the printing just gives you that little bit extra. So, it just kind of spurs you on to
Makes it
do
fun.
something. Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Renews your,
Creative juices.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so personally, what keeps you motivated working in such a fast-moving industry?
The innovation excites me, as I mentioned, and I think it's just, as interior designers, we get bored easily, I think, so looking at all of the things to come is really exciting. But for me personally, doing what I do, just building new relationships, maintaining the relationships that I've got, just really getting to talk to people. Yes. Figuring out, what people need from me. I'm a people pleaser, which makes it, in my personal life, that can be a little bit tricky. But, for my professional life, I'm always there to do whatever I can to help. And then just, understanding those relationships and being able to, like you said, nurture them. That's what excites me about moving forward, just to continue to work with great people, and be able to educate people about our product. Yeah.
So we always end with 3 questions in under 3 minutes. Bit of a fun one to wrap up this segment. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
What's your coffee order on a busy site visit day?
Oh, I'm an oat piccolo girl. I don't have time, and I usually have so many things in my hands.
So many samples?
That if I get a big coffee, it just or I will just put it down and leave it somewhere. So somewhere where I can just get the caffeine hit and just get it down quickly, and then just one.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Depending on the day, Camilla, depending on the day. But usually, yes, no, one will do me and then I'm fine. I'm getting to that age now that if I have coffee after midday, I just won't sleep.
Second question. If you could instantly master any language, what would it be?
Spanish, for sure.
Makes so much sense.
I work for a Spanish company with a lot of Spanish
Cosentino
people.
is Spanish.
Yes, Cosentino comes from Spain. So yes, a lot of Spanish people in our company. And sometimes they just forget that they're speaking English and transition to Spanish. And it would be very, very handy for me to actually understand what they're saying. So,
Are you learning it
I am
currently?
learning it. Yes, I'm currently doing Duolingo and learning how to say. I'm in the very early stages. At this point, I can order a coffee with milk at a cafe. But yes, so to be able to do that, and then to just be able to, join in on, if we have a win and everyone starts to scream and yell in Spanish, I can,
Yeah, be
I can
involved.
join in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Final question. What futuristic invention do you wish existed right now?
Well, looking at the state of my kitchen at the moment, I wish a futuristic invention of a self-cleaning kitchen. That would be ideal. Something for Cosentino to work on maybe next.
Absolutely.
Talk to our research and development department and put it in my house first.
I went to the Gaggenau showroom recently. They have self-cleaning ovens. So that could be step one.
Step one.
A very big investment for you.
Self-cleaning kitchen bench top.
Yeah.
And sink and cooktop, and maybe I just need to hire a cleaner. Maybe that's the answer.
But no, it is a great. I found it quite inspiring going to their showroom and seeing they had the Decton.
Yeah, well, they've got their essential induction cooktop in there, which I would. Yeah, we have a little one in our soon to open city showroom. But yeah, I'm very keen to see it in the Gaggenau showroom because being able to use a 12mm Decton and have the induction cooktop
and just
being
that
invisible underneath.
Seamless design.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful, especially for
Amazing.
entertainers, like we said. Yeah.
Yep. And I would love to have my cooktop on my island, but also to not have it take up the space on the island.
Particularly because with gas and whatnot,
Yeah.
it all becomes raised and busy and chunky.
Yeah, being able to just have it underneath and it just can be a normal bench top until you want to use it. Yeah, amazing.
That's a win. Well, thank you for coming on Behind the Design, Erin.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's been wonderful. Thank you.
My key takeaways from this conversation with Erin are that innovation in materials is shaping the future of design, that sustainability and safety are becoming central to how products are developed, and that collaboration between designers and suppliers plays a huge role in creating better outcomes for clients. For those listening, you can learn more about Cosentino and their materials online. And if you enjoyed this episode, please follow Behind the Design, leave a review, and share it with someone passionate about design and innovation. I'm Camilla Ingall, and this has been Behind the Design.